boy, do we have an esteemed panel to join us for today's Mock Draft Monday. I'm going to let them quickly introduce themselves before we jump right in. And we're going to start off with JJ.
I'm JJ Wenner. You can find me on X at JJ Wenner. I am hosting the Rider Dynasty podcast right now for IDP Plus and the upcoming All Out Blitz pod for Fighting Chance. That's it.
Thank you, JJ. And let's go over to Joe.
Hi, my name is Joe Wiggins. You can find me at OP Joe with 2 E's, and I'm a host of Offensive Points here on the IDP Plus channel. So give the channel a follow. Just rebranded. It's beautiful. And follow Offensive Points while you're at it.
Thank you, Joe. All right, Gary, the IDP tipster.
Yep, Gary Van Dyke, a.k.a. the IDP tipster on the X. Check it out sometimes. You'll find a huge amount of the IDP guys and IDP Plus's content. Love them.
And I didn't mention it, but we have 3 outstanding guests that are joining us from many great experts from throughout the fantasy football industry. So now we'll turn it over to them, and we'll start with Joel.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Joel Worth at the Joel Worth on Twitter, and you can find me at Club Fantasy FFL, the Dynasty After Party podcast with our friend Michael Sicoli every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, at least during the off season.
Thank you, Joel. And let's go to Jameson.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm Jameson Hutchison at Jameson Rules on the Twitter machine. Mostly do a lot of DFS stuff during the season, but I just got back from the Combine last week, so I thought I could contribute just a tiny bit. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
We're looking forward to those insider extra nuggets that you picked up by being there in person, Jameson. So looking forward to that. And last but certainly not least, Dave.
I appreciate the invite. Dave Heilman, Dynasty Dorks on Twitter. I work for Sports Gambling Podcast Network, doing writing and content creation. Also just started working for DTC, doing some social media for them.
Oh.
Right. Thank you, Dave. DTC, everybody might not be familiar. Dynasty Trade Calculator, I presume?
Yeah, Dynasty Trade Calculator.
All right, just wanted to make sure I wasn't making an assumption, because you know what happens when you assume sometimes and you're not right. All righty. So with that, for our audience, we're going to be doing a rookie mock draft. We're going to do at least 2 rounds today. We may even get ambitious and do 3, depending on how timing is going for our audience. It's going to be 1 quarterback only, just offense. It's going to be done with a dynasty mindset, not a redraft mindset, a dynasty mindset. And we'll have 12 teams. Each of our panelists will be having 2 teams each. And we are ready to get rolling. And we're going to start off with Joe, who will have picks 1 and 6. So, Joe, let's get this mock draft rolling.
All right. I'll make this pretty easy on everyone. Marvin Harrison is the pick here. He has the bloodline. He has the pedigree. He has the resume. He's your Blitnikoff winner, and he's 21 years old. You have a surefire wide receiver day 1 starter on your team. Easy peasy.
Marvin Harrison from Ohio State, whose father will be in the Hall of Fame soon. Okay, pick 1. So Joe got us going. Gary, who has picks 2 and 8, is up next.
Well, I'm not one to really reach for quarterbacks, so I'm going to throw a little wrench and go Neighbors here at wide receiver. You know, I don't know if he's a generational type of dude, but he sure looks good on tape and film. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and jump on that.
The tipster picks Malik Neighbors with the second pick of the first round, the wide receiver from LSU. And not that there's any LSU bias from this host here for what it's worth, but you may hear some references to LSU. And as JJ says, maybe a little bit. Okay, outstanding pick, Gary. All right, Joel, who have picks 3 and 9, is up. Joel.
Yeah, it feels like the last of the easy picks this early, so I'm going to take Rome Odunze from Washington.
Rome Odunze. And as many folks out there, including this esteemed panel, knows, we have a strong wide receiver class, and you see 3 right out the chute, the top 3. There's some argument, debate about the order of a few of these, and we may talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so team 4 is Dave. Dave has picks 4 and 10. Dave, that was nice of them to pick those first 3 wide receivers and leave you with the first kind of wild card of the draft.
Yeah, I was hoping somebody would, get a little crazy and make it easy on me. But I was planning ahead. And so, looking at the board, I think it's still a little too early for quarterback because we're doing a 1 quarterback format. You have Brian Thomas here, who I think deserves to be in the conversation. Running backs, I'm not thinking about running backs at this point. But I'm going to go with a guy he's a blue chip at a position that is very hard to find, and that's Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers just offers what you're looking for in a fantasy tight end. Last year people were really excited about Michael Mayer, and then all of a sudden they were like, well, Laporte and Kincaid are probably the guys you want, and he is that guy. Hopefully he goes, top 10, but at least he's going to go top 15 in the draft. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that can get going pretty early.
Brock Bowers from the University of Georgia with pick number 4 by Dave. Okay, let's go with JJ, who have picks 5 and 11 today. JJ, who do you have coming up?
Well, those were my top 4 picks, so thank you. I thought one of you might go a little bit off, as Dave said. I'm going to go with, and this will make you happy, Ricky, another LSU guy, 6'2", 209 Blazer. Do I have some concerns? Yes. Am I going to let that influence my pick right now? No. I'm good with him. Brian Thomas is fast. He can take the top off of a defense. Let's go with the big man from LSU.
Another outstanding pick from LSU, Brian Thomas.
Oh, you just drip with Homerism. You drip with it.
Yeah, and probably do so. Okay. Jameson with pick number 6, and he will also have pick number 12. This will be interesting which direction he takes it after these first 4 wide receivers and tight end come off the board. Jameson.
Yeah, it got a little goofy. I think I'm going to go with my gut here. One guy at the combine, I know his teammate Xavier Worthy got a lot of buzz, but I really liked Adonai Mitchell from Texas, 6'4", 195, 4.34, 40-yard dash. I thought he looked like the best wide receiver on the field. His tape shows it. If you watch some of the Texas stuff last year, I thought Quinn Ewers kind of held his team back a little bit. So if you see some of the stats and stuff, it's not like, he's sharing it with Worthy. And but I do think he has a lot to offer. I think he's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft, and I think he's going to be an exceptional pick. And he kind of goes a little quiet against all these other guys, so that's where I'm going to go with this pick.
All right, Adonai Mitchell, who I have to admit I was butchering his first name up until the combine when I heard him pronounce it. I was like, okay, we're going to pronounce it Adonai as opposed to Donnie and whatever else I was butchering it with. Okay,
I put it on YouTube before I did it.
Oh. Smart man. Okay, team 7. We're back around to Joe, who's got to bed at 2 a.m. and is pounding the Red Bulls already this morning. So it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with here.
It might be the Red Bull, but Jameson, I was not expecting him to have AD Mitchell there. I was kind of banking on that one. So I'm going to go a little bit off the rails here, something I don't normally do, but I'm going to go Caleb Williams. I think in the first round, I want the for sure prospect here. He does everything. He has the chance, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, but if you can get comps to Patrick Mahomes, so be it. I'll take you at number 7 here.
And he has that rushing cheat code capability as well. So first quarterback off the board at pick number 7. And once again, this is with a dynasty mindset. And this is where a lot of people are expecting some of the quarterbacks to start going off board. So thank you, Joe, for pick 7. And let's go to Gary with pick number 8.
Well, I'm going to go with, I think it's our buddy Joe Harlow's advice with Drake May. Let's see, North Carolina. Do I have the right Joe? We have so many, right? All right. Great arm strength, decision makings there, ball placement, and it's time to get him off the board before somebody else does.
We go back-to-back quarterbacks here in the middle of round one with Caleb and now Drake May to the tipster. Okay, Joel, you are up with pick number 9.
Yeah, I think, one quarterback we're in kind of take your guys territory here. So I'm going to take Keon Coleman from Florida State. Ran a pretty disappointing 40 at the combine, but and we talked about this on our show on Sunday. I think that was more of a function of him being a really bad 40 runner more than him being kind of slow. Just like as a former track guy, he did some really kind of cringy things when he was running his 40. So, and then I think we all saw that he ran the gauntlet really well, had the highest GPS time. So I'm not really worried about that. He's really young. He's still not even 21 yet. So I think he's got a bright future in front of him. So I'm going to take Keon Coleman.
It's Keon Coleman from the state of Louisiana, but from Florida State. Boy, I got a bias, don't I? So Keon Coleman, separation concerns there as well, but interesting pick here with Team 9 here in round 1. Okay, Dave, let's go to Team 10.
Yeah, and so like everyone said, it's kind of your flavor here. In a lot of mock drafts, you're not going to see running backs going in the first round. But I think in your real drafts, you are going to see running backs going in the first round. People need running backs in Dynasty. It's very hard to find a Dynasty roster that doesn't need a running back. And, there's some good receivers on the board. I'll play the ADP game and see if I can get my guy next. But I'm going to go with Trey Benson. Trey Benson offers some versatility, like what he does in space. And at that size, being able to run that fast, it's just not – you don't find that in a lot of places. There were some Breece Hall comps after the combine. But I really like his receiving ability. We talked about this being a PPR format. And so give me Trey Benson as I reach for running back.
Trey Benson goes to Dave. Last mock draft we did, no running backs went in the first round. Running back goes in this mock draft here in the first round. Thank you, Dave. Let's go with JJ and pick 11.
So I'm a little bit torn here, Ricky. I wasn't expecting that pick. That was a good pick. I think a lot of these running backs are going to be serviceable. We just don't have the top tier talent like we did last year in Bijan. But I'm going to stick with wide receiver, and I'm going to go with the kid out of Oregon, 6'1", 176. I seem to have a speed type of thing going on right now. I don't know if I'm like 1970s trucker, but I'm going to go with Troy Franklin.
So JJ Winner, also known as Al Davis, loving the speed at his wide receiver positions, goes with Troy Franklin here from Oregon, pick number 11. And rounding up the first round will be Jameson with pick number 12.
I guess I'll get the last of this tier of quarterbacks in Jaden Daniels from LSU, 6'4", 210. Probably going to be the most fantasy friendly out of the group. He's got a lot of rushing ability, but when you watched him last year, he obviously had a really good wide receiver core, including one of the top picks, Neighbors. But I thought he threw the ball really fluid, and I think just wherever he lands, he'll have the rushing upside. It seems like it's going to be New England right now. So as far as the dynasty goes, he might have to put a lot of the team on his back. But I liked what he did, and I think he's the best fantasy-friendly quarterback out of the bunch here. So that's where I'm going to go.
Jaden Daniels makes it 3 LSU picks in the first 12 of this rookie mock draft. Outstanding pick there, Jameson. All righty. So for our list, you picked up on something already. You picked up on a theme. All right. So for our listening audience, let's recap the first round. So the first 4 picks were Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, and Brock Bowers. The next 4, middle 4, Brian Thomas, Adonai Mitchell, Caleb Williams, and Drake May. And rounding out the first round, the last 4, Keon Coleman, Trey Benson, Troy Franklin, and Jaden Daniels. Okay, so before we jump in round 2, a couple of questions. Joel, surprised that 3 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback rookie draft went in the first round?
Not surprised. Not something I would do. I'm not as high on this quarterback class as most are, but no, I'm not surprised. I think there's some guys with some pretty high pedigree. So yeah, not too surprising.
Oh, you opened the door for a follow-up question. What is it about this class that maybe you're not as quite high upon as many others out there?
I do like Caleb Williams, but I don't know that his. I think it's going to take some time, right? I think he's going to need some a few years, maybe kind of. I think he probably needs to take the Jordan Love path and the Patrick Mahomes path and sit for a year or two before he kind of reaches his ceiling. Drake May, I'm not super high on how his game translates to the NFL. And then Jaden Daniels, I like a lot as a talent, but man, I don't know that listed weight is legit. So I think he's probably under 200 pounds. And, we saw Anthony Richardson, who's a much bigger, kind of more sturdy quarterback, have some injury issues himself, a very similar type of player. So I'm just really I'm not sure how well he's going to hold up at the NFL level.
Excellent food for thought, Joe. Thank you. Joe, Dave made an interesting hypothesis when he talked about running backs, and he says, yeah, a lot of these mock drafts, a lot of running backs aren't going in the first round, but when we get to, particularly when NFL draft happens and some of these running backs start landing in different places, Dave thinks that's going to shift. Agree or disagree, particularly given the strength of this wide receiver class this year?
I agree, because running back is always a premium position. I think with the quarterbacks going in the first round in particular is more of a product of we do not know landing spots at this point in time. So we're going with the safe picks here. Now, the running backs, I'm actually coming around on them quite a bit. I think, landing spot dependent, I think you have a pretty solid top 4 that could end up going in the first round, depending on landing spot here. So I actually, with my next pick, I will address it here, kind of what my thought process is. But I think the running backs will come around and people will jump into them some more.
Okay, great. Great advice for our audience and things for them to consider. Thanks, gentlemen. Okay, let's jump into round 2, and we're going to be going in reverse order. And so Jameson, who just picked Jaden Daniels with Team 12, will start us off here in round 2. Jameson.
Well, of course, I got a quarterback, so I'm going to pair him with one of the speedster wide receivers in Xavier Worthy. Obviously broke the combine record for fastest wide receiver ever, breaking John Ross's record. I do want to say that they don't really compare. I know they just call him, it's a slim guy, and they just say he's going to be a bust, but he's got the production to show it. Jaden Daniels last year at LSU kind of showed some of the deep ball stuff that he can pull off. And I think Worthy, kind of comps a little bit to Tank Dell as far as size go. And we saw before he got injured last year that he was able to produce in the NFL. So that's where I'm going to go here.
Xavier Worthy gets us going here to start round 2. Okay, JJ, second pick of round 2.
Speed kills, but my only concern about this player is his injury history. He has not been able to stay healthy for any length of time, but we're in the second round of a rookie mock. Landing spot agnostic. I don't know. I just think he's really effective, and he can catch balls over the middle. Isn't that what we need? Like, I love outside receivers and all, but the guys who can put up 100 catches are, they make the fantasy world go around, especially in PPR. So I'm going with Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. And I'm just going to say a little prayer on a rosary and hope he can get some health into that body.
Ladd McConkey from Georgia opened a lot of eyes, particularly as the postseason has continued on. Okay, so now we go to Dave with the third pick of round 2.
Yeah, I did not expect the snake around here, but I was hoping to get Ladd McConkey there. I like that pick. I don't think anyone expected him to run as fast as he did. Just listening to Move the Sticks yesterday, and talk about the gauntlet drill earlier. The purpose of running a straight line is so the cornerbacks can't cut you off. And, Keon Coleman and Ladd McConkey really excelled. Troy Franklin looked like he was running a snake. It just looked odd. McConkey's definitely someone that's coming up my board. Like JJ said, hopefully he can stay healthy. Jaden Daniels did not make it back around to me. I do think Washington is very interested in him, and with Cliff Kingsbury, and you see how he deploy Kyler Murray. It could be very interesting. Just got to obviously not take some of those hits. We've seen some of the videos, and the video tape doesn't lie. He takes some big hits. I'm going to stick with the running back position. I think this is a sweet spot for running backs in the early second round. I'm going to go with Jonathan Brooks. I got to talk with Jonathan at the Combine. He said he will be ready to go July 1st. He's met with a plethora of teams, and just his speed and playmaking ability. I think this guy in the receiving game again is going to be a fantasy star. And so give me Jonathan Brooks to give me back-to-back running backs.
So Benson and Brooks for team 10 for Dave. And of course, a lot of people were saying if Brooks wouldn't have had the injury, he would have been the clear number 1 running back. A lot of people, not everyone. And so getting him here with third pick of round 2, very, very interesting and good pick. Okay, let's go to Joe now, who have the 4th pick of this round. Joe.
Yeah, Dave took my guy there. I do think Jonathan Brooks is the best prospect in this class. Kind of really does everything well. So I'm going to take my next running back on the list, and that's Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. Another guy who he kind of blew up the combine a little bit. We expected him to because he's a pretty superior athlete. Didn't get the kind of heavy workload that we kind of want to see at Tennessee, but I think he's talented enough that he's going to be a really good player at the next level. So Jalen Wright out of Tennessee.
Jalen Wright came in and sturdier than expected at 210, averaged 7 yards per carry in the SEC. So open up a lot of eyes at the combine for sure. Okay, so next pick 5 for team 8 will be Gary.
All right, let's go ahead and stick in the running back division or department here, and let's go with Bucky Irving after 2 really good back-to-back seasons. He can make the missed tackles happen, and he's pretty elusive, and his after contact yards is over 3.5. So I think he's going to fit in real nicely. It, again, depends where he lands.
So Bucky Irving, the Oregon running back, got my vowels mixed up there for a second. So he goes here. So we've got a run of 3 running backs in a row. And now with the last pick of the first half of the second round, we'll go to Joe.
All right. So I was hoping one of those running backs was going to be there. Ricky, you asked me the question earlier about the running backs. If I was number team 12, I just won the championship, I'd be going Jonathan Brooks all day, just letting him sit and heal and get healthy because I do think he's the best back in this class. I also think Jalen Wright could go pretty high in the first round just with the youth. This pick's kind of difficult, but I'm going to go with the PPR upside and go Will Shipley here. Depending on his landing spot, I could see him catching a ton of balls in a PPR format. So pairing him up kind of as an RB2, RB3 type on my team, that's where I would go with it.
So Will Shipley from Clemson, who didn't do much of the testing at the combine, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of his pro day results as well. Okay, let's move to the second half of the second round, and with pick 6, we're back to Jameson.
I know this is a mock draft, so I'm just going to reach a little bit for one of my guys here. And since it's dynasty format, we can have a little bit of patience. But Xavier Legette from the University of South Carolina, he's like the A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf hybrid specimen. I mean, I saw him at the combine. He is just a huge dude. His footwork needs a little bit, but I mean, he shows a lot of traits. Can grab the ball out of the air. He's pretty strong against defenders and stuff like that. I think his footwork needs a little bit of help, but I think with time, I think he can produce at the NFL.
He is certainly rocked up, as they say, from a specimen perspective, indeed. So Xavier Legette from South Carolina and the SEC goes here, and now with the next pick, we go back to JJ.
You're on mute, JJ.
JJ, you're on mute, man.
Oh, that was a great joke, by the way. So everybody, if you can edit in some laughter. I asked if I could pass, but I guess I can't. So you know what? I'm going to go with the running back here. I love running backs. I'm going to go with like the little fire hydrant out of Michigan, Blake Corum. All around type of back. Solid speed. I mean, he's not a blazer, but I don't know. I just like him. I like his strength. I like what he can do between the tackles. I'm interested to see landing spot, but yeah, I'm going to go with Blake Corum here.
And it's certainly someone else who is definitely rocked up when you look at him and put up, I believe it was 27 on the bench press, if I remember correctly. So he really, he's got the strength too, for sure. Okay, Dave, team 4.
Yeah, I think this illustrates the running back position, and it's really kind of pick your flavor. If you ask Twitter who's the RB1 in this class, you're going to get 7 different answers. Braylon Allen has still not been picked. He's some people's RB1. Marshawn Lloyd is some people's RB1. Blake Corum is a very polarizing prospect. I put a video out on TikTok, and because of all the hate he gets, it's got quite a bit of views. As far as I still think there's some good players here. I think landing spot, of course, is going to shuffle up the running backs. Xavier Leggett is an interesting prospect. That was a good pick. I'm going to reach a little bit because I don't know if he's going to make it back to me. And it's Roman Wilson out of Michigan. Michigan's offense, you look at any of the pass catchers or the running backs and you say, wow, there's no production. They didn't throw the ball. I mean, Blake Corum had 27 rushing touchdowns himself. They also have Donovan Edwards, other running backs. This was a very good offense, but it was not a pass-heavy offense. So I think people are just starting to see Roman Wilson, and he's been hiding a little bit. And, his ability after the catch is what I'm interested in, and I think he's got some big play speed.
Yeah, he's got some of that Jaden Reed vibe from who the Packers drafted last year in the 2nd round. So it'll be really interesting to see where Roman ends up and how high he goes. Okay, thank you, Dave. All right, next up to bat in a mock draft. I keep on using a baseball analogy in a mock draft, but Joe, you are up.
Yeah, I'm going to take Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. Gets a lot of Deebo Samuel comps, and it's kind of warranted. Size-wise, he's about the same size as when Deebo came out of South Carolina, and has a very similar usage style. A lot of crossers, a lot of manufactured touches. Really good run after the catch guy.
Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. Okay, Gary, you are up.
Thinking long-term, dynasty-wise, I'll tell you, I was thinking about dipping back into the running backs, but how about we just throw a huge dart? Somebody took Bo Nixon yet?
No, Nix is still there.
Bo Nix is still available.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of probably pretty hyped up. He had a hell of a combine, right? No? I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I'll go ahead and stick with the Oregon wide receiver. Pardon me. Oregon quarterback at this point.
Bo Nix.
Yep. Thank you. Put it out.
So
Put
interesting.
The fire out.
Bo Nix. So of the quarterbacks, of course, there's been this top 3 and then the next 3. And with Bo Nix and Penix and McCarthy, and depending on who you ask and who you read and who you talk to, every one of them said, "Oh, Bo Nix had a great combine. Oh no, Bo Nix had a terrible combine. Oh, Michael Penix had a great combine. Oh no, he had a terrible combine. JJ McCarthy had a great combine. No, he had a terrible." So it's kind of interesting how different people and their eyes and what they're looking for all drew very different conclusions on a lot of that 2nd-tier quarterbacks. Gary's running with Bo Nix here as the first one of that group. So thank you, Gary. And then rounding out round 2, we have Joe. OP Joe, you're up.
All right. I'm going to go with the guy that I'm pretty hyped about. He killed it in the Shrine Bowl. It's Malik Washington, coming out of Virginia. He led college football in receptions, He's a fantastic route runner. He led the college football in missed tackles forced. He is a ball of energy with the ball in his hand, and he absolutely dominated at Virginia. So I think he can do it in the NFL and probably be a pretty good PPR machine for you.
Okay, so Malik Washington rounds out round 2. So for our listening audience, let's recap the second round, and we'll get ready for a third round, gentlemen. So since we're doing in such a great pace, so we're going to start going deeper and share some more thoughts with our audience. So start looking at those draft picks as potential draft picks as I summarize round 2. So the first 4 picks of round 2 went Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, Mr. Brooks from Texas, and Mr. Wright from Tennessee. Your middle 4, Bucky Irving, Will Shipley, Xavier Legette, and Blake Corum. And rounding out round 2, the bottom 4, Roman Wilson, Malachi Corley, Bo Nix, and Malik Washington. So when I set the stage earlier for our listening audience, I mentioned to them that we do at least 2, and we're going to give them a bonus third round. But before we do that, I am going to do a plug for IDP Plus. We do have a special going on IDP Plus. So you get your first month for $1. And with that, you get access to everything. $1 with the code Mock Draft. Great. You get to see our rankings. You get to see our articles. You get to see our tools. So you get to see everything that we have to offer in that first month for $1. And then it goes to regular price from there. So you get to see the great work of some of these gentlemen that are on here today. And hopefully some of these guests will be periodically participating as well. And with that, we're going to go ahead and start round 3, and the pressure's on because we're going to start going deep, and we're going to start seeing more and more people's favorites. As Sleeper's telling me to get a move on, so we're going to get a move on here. And Joe, you're going to have the first pick to start us off here in round 3.
All right, so I think a solid trend that you can see with my dynasty picking is I think 1 reception is a lot easier than 10 yards. So I'm going to go with Ricky Pearsall. I don't think he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver, but he has excellent hands, and he is as versatile as you could absolutely imagine. So he's going to get on the field a lot, and he does not drop passes. So he's going to earn trust very quickly and should rack up some catches for you.
You know, those rookies, those are usually really solid ballers, whether it be on the football field or in fantasy football. They're quite the ballers. And, you know, you got your Ricky Williams. You want to go baseball, go Ricky Henderson. You got Ricky Pearsall. You got Ricky Rod 66. You know, we're all ballers. All right. Oh, boy, the look for our listening audience, if you could see the looks on the face of our panelists here with that one. Okay, we're including producer Andrew, who's sitting to my right. And thank you, producer Andrew, for helping us again this week. Okay, we'll quickly move on before we lose our audience. And Gary, you have pick 2 of the third round.
You think you're freaking out? I'm freaking out. You said we're going deeper in these rookies, which I'm not really famous for, nor am I with the offensive side of the ball. So thinking back on the whole idea of building a dynasty team, and I am not like one of those big rookie fans, so pay attention if you're kind of an amateur at this rookie thing. Hey, so am I. Even being here veteran wise, I just don't know. But I'm gonna circle back around to the running backs, just thinking about trying to hit dynasty wise long term. So the gentleman I had on mind is where'd he go? What's that? I'm gonna Extraston? Oh, I'm going to mess that up. Eston?
All right.
Estime. Audric
Joe
Estime.
Wiggins. Okay, there you go,
Thanks,
JJ.
JJ, just like always, brother.
I got your back with those tough ones,
Audric
brother.
Estime.
Well, cool. Follow it up with some great information. I'll get
So Estime, seen as a straight line runner, very powerful. Doesn't have the long speed. Questions about his agility as well from side to side, but definitely a strong power runner. A lot of people are calling him the Thunder, and he'll need the Lightning to pair with him in a backfield. So thank you, Gary, for that running back from Notre Dame. And now we'll go to Joel with pick number 3 of this round. Joel.
Yeah, since we're in the third round, I'm going to take the kind of real upside play here, and that's Braylon Allen of Wisconsin. and the upside, because he's so young, right? He played his entire freshman season at 17. He will not he can't buy a beer until like the playoffs of next year. Crazy young guy. He played linebacker at Fond du Lac High School until his senior year. So he's got some nuance to learn as a running back. So kind of betting on the come with a young guy. Didn't blow out the combine. Kind of really expected better from him, but like I said, so crazy young, and a guy who's I think his best football's in front of him.
Braylon Allen with the third pick of the third round. Okay, thank you, Joel. Let's go to Dave with pick number 4.
Yeah, and a lot of people look at go on Reddit, and then people say, "Why are we mock drafting? Why are we ranking at this time of the year?" I think this is a great tool, and you're looking at trading back if you're looking to trade veteran players. And I love almost all of the last picks. When you talk about Malachi Corley and Malik Washington, like those guys, people need to know who they are. Braylon Allen, got a little snipe there, and Ricky Pearsall is definitely someone that's going up my boards. Had a great combine. He's had really a great pre-draft, and I think there's some great talent here. Landing spots might shrink the pool a little bit, but I think there's still some talent on the board. I'm going to go with Marshawn Lloyd. It was going to be Braylon Allen or Marshawn Lloyd here. Football Guys has him as their number 1 running back. I think he made it, Daniel Jeremiah said it yesterday. He made a case to be the number 1 running back off the board. And, if he gets a spot like the Giants after they lose Saquon, or one of these lead spots, like whoever goes to the Chargers or Baltimore, we're going to be all over. And Marshawn Lloyd, he went from the SEC to the Pac-12. He showed his ability in both conferences, different schemes, different offenses. And I think he's just a really balanced player that has some upside. So give me Marshawn Lloyd.
Marshawn Lloyd.
Actually, give me him, if you don't mind. Give me him. Thank you. Appreciate that, Dave.
No returns, no exchanges, brother.
I got rookie picks on the block.
All right. Gary's in the trading mode already. Fantastic. This is Dynasty. Okay. So, JJ, pick 5 of round 3.
Well, when you said that this is going to go a lot deeper than we thought, that is something most of us have never heard in our lives. But that being said,
oh
my God. I had to throw that out there. Sorry. A lot of us talk about how the combine shouldn't really change what we think about players, right? Fast guys were fast, slow guys were slow. That's what we see. But somebody who I think surprised a lot of people with the way he could spin the ball, and maybe I just have a little bit of Penix envy, but I'm going to go with Michael Penix here. I think I have this, right? If he can stay healthy, and he has shown the past 2 years he can throw that ball, man. And I don't know. I think a lot of GMs noticed that this past weekend. So give me Michael Penix out of Washington.
Michael Penix with our 5th quarterback of the draft here, the 5th pick of the 3rd round. I actually expected that pick to go a little bit earlier, as well as one other quarterback. So we'll see if he comes off before we in round 3. Let's go to team 6 and Jameson.
Well, I'm glad I didn't get sniped here because I'm going to go a different way here, and I'm going to go with J.J. McCarthy. I think, he's starting to rise up boards. In my personal mind, I think Minnesota's going to come up to get him. So if you're talking Dynasty, being paired with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison seems like pretty good to me. He's sneaky athletic. I know he didn't do a whole lot stat-wise at Michigan, but, when you're blowing everybody out by the 3rd quarter, you don't have to throw the ball a whole lot. But he did have Roman Wilson. They had both had a good connection there. So I'm going to go McCarthy here. I think he's got some upside in the NFL, and I think he's going to produce there.
Okay, J.J. McCarthy with the 6th pick of the 3rd round. And let's go back to Joe with team 7 here.
Okay, so this is a guy that I was really high on going into this process, and he has started to fall. But I'm going to go with Devontae Walker from North Carolina. Drake May's number 1 target. the drops are a problem, and he did not do good in the Senior Bowl. He did not get that separation that we were used to seeing, and we saw him get targeted about 10 times in that game and drop every single one of them for the most part. So I think that he's a really good route runner. He gets open a lot, and I think once he can get on the same page as a quarterback in the NFL, I think we will start seeing more from him. So I'll take a shot at him at this point.
Yeah. So Tez Walker, who has needs glue and stickum on his hand potentially to help with some of his pass catching capabilities, but he can certainly run. Okay. He did struggle, but he did have some good highlights during the year as well. So he is a polarizing figure for sure. Team 8, back to Mr. Gary.
Let's see. Let's go ahead and swing a wide receiver, I believe. Let's go with Washington's Jalen McMillan.
Jalen McMillan from Washington.
Washington
had 3.
Go right ahead, sir.
Oh, Washington had 3 excellent wide receivers with O'Dunes and McMillan, and also Jalen Polk. And so we have 2 Washington wide receivers off the board. Thank you, Gary. And so let's go with Joel.
I'm going to keep that train going, and I'm going to take Jalen Polk here. I think he's kind of not a superior athlete, but a really good route runner. Kind of like not going to compare him to Devontae Adams, but a kind of similar kind of player. He's a much better route runner than he is athlete. And I think he's kind of a guy, the kind of complaint with Michael Penix was he wasn't a great kind of short and intermediate thrower. And I think Polk was a guy who kind of had some plays left on the field because it wasn't a great combination with Penix. So I think he's got more upside in the NFL.
Okay, Jalen Polk here going off the board. And now we're going back to Dave with pick number 10.
Yeah, and really we're getting to where it's getting a little deeper. And this is where some guys popped up after the combine that maybe weren't on the radar before. But one guy that a lot of people are talking about this offseason is Javon Baker from UCF. He's got the size. You're talking about upside. You can't teach that kind of size and speed. And so went to UCF, was recruited at Alabama. Really showed up at the Senior Bowl and got a lot of buzz. And so I'm going to take him here because I think that's about where he's going to go in your rookie drafts.
Yeah. Obviously recruited out of high school into Alabama, transferred later on. Usually those guys that with Alabama ties certainly have some talent. Maybe not as much as LSU, but not bad. Okay. Let's go to JJ now with pick 11. Is it getting totally obnoxious now? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, are they really that good? They had all those players getting drafted, but they didn't win the championship, Ricky. What happened? I mean, I'm just saying. But anyway.
You're talking about Alabama, of course, right? Yeah.
So, when it comes to this position, there's sometimes generational talents, as we saw with somebody going in the first round. The rest of the guys, sometimes you just have to wait on. At the end of the 3rd round in a dynasty situation, I'm happy taking a tight end who I might have to wait a year or 2 to see him really blossom. But we have been lucky with tight ends breaking out earlier the past few years. So I'm going to go with the big man out of Texas, Ja'Tavion Sanders, 6'4", 245, decent speed for a big man. I'm interested to see what he can do in a good offense. So I'm going with the tight end, Ja'Tavion Sanders.
Ja'Tavion Sanders. Sorry, I was whispering over here with producer Andrew because it's not coming on the screen for some reason. But Ja'Tavion Sanders goes with here this pick with Team 11 here at the 3rd round. And
my pick was so good it broke Sleeper. That's how good it was.
Good.
Boom.
Interestingly enough, last mock draft we did a tight end premium offensive rookie draft, and in both of those, Sanders went in the 2nd round in both of those. So, but the second tight end off the board here, And then last on the last pick of our rookie mock draft here, with pick 12 of the third round, will be Jameson.
Well, seems like a lot of pressure, and but I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. I'm going to go Isaac Grendo from Louisville. At the combine, he really showed out, and we see these NFL teams just go for athletic traits. Like a team like the Colts, Chris Ballard, all he cares about is athletic traits. He's got some home run speed to him, a 4.330, best vertical since David Johnson in 2015. So I think an NFL team's going to take a chance on him later in the draft, and we see it all the time. These later running backs end up producing in the NFL in today's day and age with how running backs are treated. So I'm going to go there.
Okay, so I was so distracted, Jameson, by trying to get Sanders on the board that I missed the name. Isn't that terrible? So who was that?
Isaac Grendo.
Isaac Grendo from Louisville. Okay, gotcha. Yep. Thank you. All righty. So recapping, let's start off by recapping round 3. Ricky Pearsall, Estime from Notre Dame, Braylon Allen from Wisconsin, Lloyd from USC. The next 4, Penix, McCarthy, 2 quarterbacks, Tez Walker, Jalen McMillan, and then we wrap it up with Polk and Baker and Sanders and Garindo. All righty, so outstanding job, folks. A lot of variation here. So from various mock drafts we see. So let's start off with a few questions. Let's start off with Jameson. Jameson, Nix, Penix, McCarthy. You were there. You heard me talk earlier about the fact about so many people had so many different opinions about each of those. While you were there, what would be the order of those 3 from a quarterback perspective based on what you saw?
I think it'd be McCarthy, Penix, and then Nix. Penix is the wild card. I think in the NFL, he's got his injury history. I think he's kind of like Jared Goff with a better arm. If he's got to have the offensive line. When he was at Indiana, I mean, he blew up before he tore both his ACLs. He had a shoulder injury. So I do think he's a little more athletic than people say he is. But McCarthy, I think, we see it all the time. One of these teams are going to fall in love with them. And it seems like that's going to happen. And Bo Nix, I saw him. He was okay at the combine. And I'm not going to act like I'm an expert, but the way he throws the ball is a whole lot different than the way Penix does. And then, I think Bo Nix is just kind of a guy, just in my eyes. I don't see him really being a starter at the NFL level, but that's just me.
Where were you in round 2, brother, when I was picking for team 2, man?
It's just preference. I could always be wrong. I'm trying to be on your side, Gary. It's nothing personal. It's just business.
Oh, no, let me have it, brother. Let them know.
I could be wrong. I'm wrong about just about everything else, so ain't nothing new here.
Yeah, my wife constantly tells me I'm wrong about everything. So Bo Nix, some people are saying he's got a little bit Drew Brees quality to him. So Gary, so you just don't know.
Hey, I got a Brees jersey back here, the only offense in this room.
Okay, so now if I asked you, Dave, when you look at your draft board of who wasn't picked from your draft list, if you had one more pick and potentially even one more upside pick, Dave, who do you think you'd be adding to this list?
Nobody drafted Brendan Rice. Talk about some good pedigree. Not only, obviously Jerry Rice's son, but went to USC, highly recruited player. And he played well at USC, didn't put up gaudy numbers. But you go back to Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison put up video game numbers at Pittsburgh and then pedestrian numbers at USC. He's pretty good. And so I'm not just going to look at the stats. I'm going to look at what this guy does. He's obviously, he's a different player than Jordan Addison, but he's someone that would have probably been next on my board.
Certainly has the pedigree and the teaching from his dad. That is for sure. What's sad is for folks like me who saw Jerry Rice play, who saw Marvin Harrison play, and now their kids are graduating college. It tells me something about my gray hair, that's for sure. JJ, was there one player in particular that you were surprised that fell much further than you expected on the board? You might have had him higher on your list, didn't pick him for one of your teams for various reasons, but fell a lot further. who would that player be?
Definitely Jalen Polk. He had a lot more hype, I think, coming out of the season. I was like, I had to look at the draft board, like zoom in, and like, I thought he might have gone earlier, but he was still there. I think, Joe, you picked him, right? Was that you? Yeah. Wait, who did?
I did.
Oh yeah, Joel. Sorry. Yeah, I was surprised that he fell that far. Now, I mean, he was kind of a deep threat with 4.52 speed. That doesn't really go together, but I don't know. I had Jalen Polk in my top 10 wide receivers, so I was surprised he was still available.
Okay. Let's go to Joe. So, Joe, we only had 2 tight ends picked. If we're going to tight end number 3 or even maybe 3 and 4, who do you have next on your list? Let's share with our audience who maybe they're in a tight end premium league and tight ends might go a little bit earlier. So who do you think you might roll with tight end 3 and 4, Joe?
Tight end's difficult this year. We saw Dallin Holker have that incredible two football catch out there. He's, he took 2 years off to go on a missionary trip to Chile. So I don't think we really saw full potential from him. And then he was at Colorado State. He kind of took over for Trey McBride's role after he left. So there's more meat on the bone for him in the NFL. The other guy I like that has more meat on the bone is A.J. Barner out of Michigan. I mean, we all know Michigan does not throw the ball, but I mean, he has the looks of a phenomenal receiving threat at tight end. So, we'll have to see more as a blocker from him. We know that he was asked to block a lot. I don't know how that transfers into the NFL, but I really want to see what he can do as a receiver in the NFL. So this late in the draft, I'd be willing to take a shot on one of those 2 guys just to see what they turn into.
Interesting. I thought you might have Theo Johnson as one of those 2, particularly the way that he balled out at the combine and showed that athleticism and so forth. Any thoughts on Theo there, Joe?
I've been talking to Theo a whole lot. I saw what he did at the combine. The guys that I've looked at, I really like what I see A.J. Barner turning into. So I'll have to do some more research on Theo and get back to you.
That's a massive human being,
good.
though. 6'6", 260. It's a big boy.
Someone tell me about
Jelani Woods' love will transfer into that, I'm sure. I've still got him on a ton of rosters. So
how about Stover out of Ohio State being I mean, I'm a little bit of a fan of his. Where you guys got him sitting?
I definitely have Stover ranked up there. I know PFF is very high on Stover. Yeah, I mean, he's
nothing in particular
quick enough, but I mean, tight end kind of gets blah after the top like 5, in my opinion. They're all fantastic human beings. I'm not saying anything bad. Sorry.
Hard to get any tape on him just because their receivers were so good at Ohio State that they didn't need to throw to the tight ends. Didn't get a whole lot of work.
That's true.
I think that's the big question. I think Joe hit it spot on. It's
right
with all the talent and the tight ends just didn't get targeted as much. He demonstrated that he has the ability to catch, but just not a ton of utilization there. Sort of like the McCarthy of tight ends. Oh, that's an interesting analogy. Okay, someone can quote that one.
Cool.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, at the running back position, looking at all the running backs, who's going to be the bust on this list?
Wow, the bust. That's a tough
and I'm
one.
going to ask a couple more people that same question, so get ready.
I guess I think the obvious answer is maybe Bucky Irving. Just didn't really show out at the combine, didn't really show the kind of speed that you want out of a receiver who's going to be primarily a receiving back. So I don't think he has a whole lot of kind of between the tackles utility. He's going to be more of a space back and just didn't show, the kind of elite speed that you want to see from that position.
All right. Where were you when I picked him? Jeez.
Gary, I think you need like a red bat phone in that cave of yours. Well, you can just pick it like up a hotline, run it past somebody.
I'm starting to think once I got out of the first round there, that I just took out the trash for y'all. That's what I did.
You created some interesting dialogue opportunities, Gary, is what you did. You see?
You're welcome.
Jameson, same question for you. Of all these running backs, when you look at them, what are you thinking? Not feeling that great about, at least not that early, potentially.
I hate to say it. I would say Blake Corum if he looked like he did last year. I do bank on him. I know he was hurt last year, and then the year before he looked a little bit more explosive. But I've seen a lot of comps him going to the Chargers and being like the Jim Harbaugh guy that Eckler's probably going to leave. But just with running back, I think Trey Benson's kind of on that list too. I saw I think it was John Lobb, I think that's his last name, talked about his first game against LSU, who ended up having a really bad defense. He didn't look good. And I feel like that's kind of stuck in my mind. So those two, I don't think it's a really good running back class just in general, but that's just me.
Okay, Dave. So one last question here. Of the quarterbacks that were not drafted, once again to help out our audience, particularly since we took this draft deeper, is Spencer Rattler your number 7 of the quarterbacks, or is there somebody else, Dave, that potentially sticks out to you as the next quarterback on the list?
Yeah, I like Rattler. He didn't have the best combine. I think if you watch all the Michael Penix is the best thrower and that actually threw, which takes a big chunk of him off the list. But yeah, Spencer Rattler, and he does seem like he's getting quite a bit of love. Met with him at the combine. He told me he met with the Steelers, the Buccaneers, the Vikings, pretty much all the same teams that the top guys are meeting with, and these were all formal interviews. And his teammates just gushed about him. That his leadership, his work ethic, and really, you look at a guy with upside. He's got played in the SEC, so he's seen a lot of stuff when it comes to defenses. He's played against some top tier talent. Other guys I would consider. Michael Pratt is definitely on a lot of people's lists. Jordan Travis, and then there's some love for Joe Milton on the streets. I'm not a Joe Milton guy. Nice highlights, but can't read a defense. And so Spencer Rattler for me would be the next guy.
Okay, thank you, Dave. All right, with that, we're going to bring this Mock Draft Monday to a wrap here. I want to begin by thanking my esteemed colleagues out here. Outstanding job today, gentlemen. Great analysis, great thought-provoking information for our listeners and watchers. So thank you very much. Thank you to our audience as well for joining us today. We're going to be doing many more mock drafts throughout the off season. So we encourage you to join our IDP Plus YouTube channel to be on the lookout for those and other great content. And as a reminder, once again, $1 with the code Mock Draft gets you a month of IDP Plus, formerly IDP Guys. So take advantage of that great opportunity. And with that, we'll call it a wrap. Wishing you all great health and happiness. Be nice to one another. And we'll see you for the next Mock Draft Monday. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for watching this IDP Guys video. If you like this content and you want more fantasy football content, click here. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos to help you master your IDP league, click here to subscribe.